Hello, Phil Morris, the Time and Time photographer here with hopefully a bit of helpful information. I enjoy listening to other podcasts and reading other blogs. I was listening to one of my favorites the other day when I heard some wrong information. On this podcast, he was answering a question from a listener who was asking about the resolution of the image, and he said to capture your image at the highest resolution RAW file as possible. Well, I agree with that, but he then went on to say that destructive programs like Photoshop constantly degrade your image every action you take within the program. Wrong. Every action you take changes the data, but it doesn't need to destroy it. The only time you really need to be concerned is when you save the file. However, you can easily maintain the original quality of the image without losing data or the ability to go back to the original image. Like my paranoia about losing photos, I have a paranoia about losing data in my photos, albeit it's not as strong. Here's my workflow for working with photos and maintaining the original image data. All right, we have a nice photo here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up in Camera Raw. And you can go through and make all your setting changes, and I've already made all my changes here. And then I'm going to click Open Image, and it will open it up in Photoshop after about a moment of processing and thinking about it. And you can see that it's loaded it up. It's a background image, and this is basically a rasterized version of your original RAW file. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open it back up in Camera Raw again. And instead of just clicking Open Image, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and then that changes to Open Object. And now it's going to open it up. Takes about the same amount of time. And you'll notice that it has this little icon here that shows that it's a smart object. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of it, and I'm going to rasterize it. So we have our smart object version, and then we have our rasterized version. As you can see, there's no noticeable difference at all. Now I'm going to change the image size, and let's make it something silly like 25 high by or 38 high by 25 wide. And we'll zoom it back up to 100%, and that's what it looks like. It's this tiny little image right here. Let's turn off the rasterized version, and the smart object version looks exactly the same. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the image size again, and I'm going to get it back up to about the same size that it was before. And this is the rasterized version. It's lost all of its data. But you switch over to the smart object version, and all the data, original data, is still there. Now, what we can do with the smart object version is, let's say you didn't like the adjustments that you made and you wanted it to be quite a bit darker. Well, you don't necessarily have to do all that in Photoshop. You can just double click on it. It opens it back up in Camera Raw. Let's say we're going to take down the exposure some, and we're going to make it like that. And then when you close it, it will go through, it'll update it, and now you have the darker version. But if you don't like that and you want to go back, you can just open it up again, scroll it back up to about where it was, say OK, and you're still working with the original raw image the whole time, and it kicks back in. You haven't lost any data at all, and you can still go through, and many of your filters will still work on smart objects. Not all of them, but almost all of them will. And you can continue to maintain that original image quality throughout your workflow, and not have to worry about your files degrading in image quality as you go along until you do your final save. Well, I hope this has been very helpful. My name is Phil Morris, the Time and Time photographer, and thank you for listening and watching.